So when you think about industries that have really, really poured billions into optimization, figuring out global logistics, supply chains, all that contract stuff, merchandising, retail and consumer packaged goods, CPG, they jump right to mind, don't they?
Oh, absolutely.
Well,
They've been at this game longer than most. Huge, mature systems, right? ERPs, decades of legacy software piled up.
exactly. So you'd think if any business problem was truly solved, it had to be the basics there. Moving products, managing vendors, seems straightforward now. But maybe hold that thought. We're looking at some really fascinating insights today from Ashish S., top AI leader, knows retail inside out. And these insights suggest that assumption. Well, it might be dangerously complacent. There's this sort of quiet revolution happening.
It's challenging the very definition of solved in these areas we thought were settled. So our mission in this deep dive is basically to give you the shortcut, the inside track on understanding what's at the heart of this change. We're unpacking how this thing called agentic AI is, well, fundamentally disrupting these mature business processes. And maybe even more importantly, what this underlying architectural shift means for how intelligence actually gets deployed in business software from now on.
Yeah, it's really time we move past thinking about AI as just better predictions or simple automation tweaking. This transformation, like the source material lays out, it isn't about making an existing tool just a bit faster. No, it's systemic, it's architectural. We're going to be looking at how intelligence is now being structured to operate, well, autonomously, often without direct human oversight. And that's completely redefining these categories, these areas that haven't seen this kind of foundational shakeup in, gosh, decades, probably. Okay, let's unpack this. So let's start with maybe the biggest hurdle, which is that institutional mindset. The source material argues pretty convincingly, I think, that the inertia we see now is built on a simple belief. Most major brands, they're still operating as if these massive foundational categories, supply chain optimization, all the tedious details of contract management, dynamic merchandising, are, quote, already solved problems.
Right. Solved problems. That's the key phrase.
Yeah, they've got their tools, their rigid software platforms, teams trained on workflows that haven't changed much. It's mature ground, right?
Yeah.
Stable, reliable.
And that stability, well, ironically, that's exactly where the vulnerability is. If your system is stable, but it's relying on assumptions from maybe 10, 20 years ago, assumptions about data, latency, how much human intervention is needed, it's just ripe for disruption. And this agentic AI, it's breathing genuinely new disruptive life into these established solution spaces. It's challenging that solved status quo because fundamentally the old systems just weren't built for the complexity and, frankly, the speed of modern data. What's fascinating here is, well, it's the sheer scale of the mindset change this demands. Think about it. When we used to talk about optimizing a supply chain, what did we mean? Usually giving a human analyst better tools to forecast and then decide, make the call.
Right, decision support.
Exactly, decision support.
Okay.
Now, we're talking about actually delegating initiative. We're shifting towards systems that don't just wait for a human to hit go. They actively sense opportunities or problems, and then they kick off complex, cross-functional solutions, sometimes entirely on their own.
That idea of delegation, that's really key, isn't it? Because I think for a lot of people, AI still brings up images of, I don't know, ChatGPT maybe, or a fancy prediction model for forecasting sales.
Sure, the more visible stuff.
But agentic AI, as Ashish S. describes it, it sounds like a completely different beast. A fundamental shift in what it can do. We're talking about a transition, right? From tools that were basically rule-based and reactive.
Waiting for a trigger.
Yeah, waiting for a trigger. A human prompt to systems that are now proactive and autonomous. Could you maybe elaborate on that? What does that proactive autonomy actually look like day to day in a business? How does it go beyond just being a sort of powerful suggestion engine?
Yeah, good question. It really comes down to, I think, scope and persistence. So a reactive tool, it's like a spreadsheet flagging a variance, simple alert. A proactive, autonomous agentic system, though, it's designed, and this is the core phrase from the source, to think, act, and collaborate like seasoned human experts.
Oh, okay, like human experts.
Exactly. That's the critical distinction. It implies it can hold context, maintain objectives over time, and pull off these multi-step, often multi-system maneuvers. Let's try and ground this. Think about a classic retail problem, inventory optimization. Maybe during a supply chain shock, something unexpected happens. Okay. An older, typical system might just flag, hey, inventory X is low at store A. That's reactive. A slightly better rule-based system might automatically trigger a replenishment order for X units, basic automation.
Right, but that simple reorder doesn't account for, say, the contract compliance issues with that supplier, or the margin risk if you reorder now, or coordinating with local marketing.
Mm.
All the stuff a human expert would instantly juggle in their head.
Precisely. That's the gap. The agentic AI system, acting like that human expert, at first sees the low stock, fine, but then it immediately starts consulting its network of specialized agents. So the sourcing agent checks global shipping data, realizes the next shipment's delayed 5 days port congestion. At the same time, the contract agent is reviewing the supplier agreement, calculating the penalty if that item is late. And meanwhile, maybe the merchandising agent analyzes local demand for that specific item, sees it's flying off the shelf, and suggests tweaking the price up slightly to preserve margin and slow down sales just enough until that delayed shipment arrives.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just placing an order. It's coordinating finance, logistics, compliance, merchandising all at once. And then it autonomously executes the whole solution, price change, order amendment, maybe sends the penalty notification without a human needing to step in and click approve on each step.
That's it exactly. It takes these really complex, messy, multifaceted business problems and turns them into manageable objectives handled by specialized AI workers, essentially. That level of autonomy, that coordination, it just elevates these systems way beyond simple decision support.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because that leap in function from just tools to these collaborating autonomous experts, you can't just build that on top of the old software structures, can you? It needs a whole new foundation.
You nailed it. That's
Yeah.
the key realization the source material really hammers home, the functional shift we're talking about. It absolutely depends on a massive architectural change happening underneath. Historically, right, we built these monolithic applications, ERPs, huge integrated software stacks, big single things.
Yeah, the giants.
The giants. And intelligence in those systems was kind of fixed, rigid. It was constrained inside the walls of that one sprawling application. Updating it, integrating new kinds of intelligence, difficult, expensive, slow.
I like to think of the old monolithic app like a huge, intricately wired old building, plumbing, electric, security, all tangled up. If you try to upgrade the security system, you might accidentally, flood the basement or cut the power somewhere else.
That's a perfect analogy. Absolutely perfect. The new architecture, though, it's totally different. It's built around multi-agent systems. So the core intelligence isn't one giant constrained brain anymore. It's distributed. It's a network of specialized collaborating AI agents. Each one has this narrow but really deep expertise: the contract agent, the pricing agent, the logistics agent, and so on.
And that completely changes where the intelligence actually lives.
Right.
Shishas emphasizes this. The intelligence is now in these specialized, nimble agents. It's not stuck in those old static modules inside one giant app anymore. And that specialization, that's what gives it the adaptability, presumably.
Exactly. If the business environment changes, new regulations, new market dynamics, you can potentially just plug in a new expert agent, maybe an agent for, say, carbon emission tracking or a last mile delivery compliance in a new region, and it just starts collaborating with the existing network. Much faster, much more flexible.
Right.
And this leads us to what I think is the critical nuance. For every executive, every technologist listening, innovation in this new world, it comes from the orchestration of these multi-agent systems, not just simple integration.
Orchestration versus integration. That feels like a really powerful distinction. Can we make that difference crystal clear for everyone listening? How do those differ in practice?
Yeah, let's try. Think about the difference between maybe a simple workflow and a symphony orchestra. Integration is mostly about making two separate tools talk to each other. It's often point to point, like building a fixed pipe between two reservoirs so water flows. It connects A to B. It's static.
Okay, fixed connection.
Right. Orchestration, on the other hand, that's like managing a dynamic team of specialized AI experts, where the task itself dictates the flow, dictates who needs to talk to whom and when. It's the conductor leading maybe 20 different instruments. If the supply chain problem needs immediate compliance review and a financial impact assessment and a pricing adjustment, well, the orchestrator agent coordinates the contract agent, the finance agent, and the merchandising agent, maybe all at the same time, ensuring they act together towards one unified business goal. The flow is dynamic, it's adaptive, it's goal-oriented, not just a fixed sequence.
Okay. We connect this to the bigger picture then. This implies companies have to fundamentally rethink how they manage their whole software ecosystem, doesn't it? You're shifting from maybe buying one or two giant monolithic solutions from big vendors to managing this intelligent, flexible, collaborating internal ecosystem of AI experts.
Yep.
It sounds like a massive change in IT strategy, budgeting, everything.
It is. It's a profound shift.
So let's bring this down from the architectural level back to the ground. Concrete retail examples. Because the source material makes it clear, these systems aren't just theory, right? They're live now. We're seeing these agentic systems deployed for really sophisticated supply chain decision-making, managing volatile global stuff in real time. And also, transforming contract compliance, making sure every tiny detail in a supplier agreement is actually adhered to dynamically, like real-time enforcement of the fine print.
Yeah, let's stick with contract compliance for a second, because it's notoriously messy, right?
Hmm.
Imagine a big apparel retailer, thousands of global vendors. Historically, trying to enforce penalty clauses or ensuring sustainability requirements were met in every single delivery. That often meant slow manual audits or massive data processing delays after the fact.
Yeah, you find out weeks later something went wrong.
Exactly. Too late. With Agentic AI, you could have a dedicated contract compliance agent just continuously monitoring the data, feeds logistics reports, material sourcing logs, payment receipts, everything. If a supplier suddenly switches to a non-compliant material or delays a shipment beyond the agreed window, the agent doesn't just flag it. It could instantly generate the violation report, apply the specified financial penalty right from the contract terms, maybe initiate the adjusted payment, and, crucially, simultaneously alert the sourcing agent to say, hey, find me an immediate replacement supplier who is compliant for the next order.
Wow, that is genuine autonomy in action.
Yeah.
And the context Shishes provides is important here too. It's not just the incumbents, the big established players driving this alone. The analysis points to how startups, especially those backed by programs like the Microsoft for Startups Pegasus portfolio, are really pushing this architectural transformation forward.
And that makes complete sense, doesn't it? Startups don't have the baggage. They don't have decades of legacy monolithic code weighing them down. They can build this multi-agent orchestration architecture clean from the ground up, designed for speed, designed for flexibility. They can bypass the integration nightmare that the big traditional players often face trying to bolt new AI onto their old, creaking ERP systems.
Right. So, okay, stepping back, what does this all mean for you listening in? If you work in retail, CPG, or really any industry that leans heavily on complex supply chains, compliance, merchandising, it means the system's managing pretty much everything. The clothes on the shelf, the price on the tag, the legal fine print in the contract are rapidly becoming genuinely autonomous, expert level, well, colleagues almost, operating 24/7. They don't just advise anymore, they act.
That's the core takeaway, really. We're witnessing this fundamental delegation of actual expertise and autonomy to AI systems.
Yeah.
We've moved beyond simple automation. We're now entering this necessary era of intelligent orchestration, really dictated by the need for hyper-specialization and collaborative action at machine speed.
So what does this all mean then? For the human experts, the people currently running these operations day to day.
Well, that's the provocative question, isn't it? If agentic AI systems can genuinely think, act, and collaborate like seasoned human experts in these core areas, supply chain planning, optimization, contract enforcement, tasks that currently define a huge chunk of the day-to-day work for many specialists. The big question for you to really chew on is this: what are the new roles? What new skills will human retail and CPG experts need to develop when their current responsibilities start being handled autonomously by these orchestrated networks of AI agents? Maybe the job shifts entirely, right? From executing and monitoring tasks to training the AI, validating its outputs, setting the strategic goals for whole fleets of AI experts. What does it look like to be the manager of a team of tireless, highly specialized AI agents? That's the frontier. That's what you should probably be exploring right now.